Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat With. Joining me is Mathers Wiswall, the Commissioner of the United Grid League. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Can you explain what the United Grid League is and how it got started?
Yes, the United Grid League is a brand new team sport featuring both men and women, equal teams. It's a race-based game with two teams going head-to-head in a match, and each team has a variety of specialties, including heavyweight, bodyweight, and everything in between. And the sport was started by Tony Budding, who left CrossFit in 2014 to start it, and we kind of took the reins in 2017.
How many teams do you currently have in the league?
9 teams.
And how many men and how many women per team?
There's about 9 and 9 as a max, but every team varies. Sometimes they have as low as six, so between 6 and 9.
Could you explain what happens during a competition match?
Yeah, so a match is composed of a series of races, and each race is structured consistently throughout all matches, but it varies by element. And each element is a movement that comes from either gymnastics or CrossFit or strongman or weightlifting. And so these races are performed strategically as the head coach decides. And each race win has a point value, each race loss has a point value, and the cumulative score over at the end of the match is who wins the match.
Each team features different types of players who specialize in various areas. Can you elaborate on those player types?
Yes, so strength specialist is generally going to be an Olympic weightlifter, a really strong CrossFitter, a strong man or strong woman, biased towards heavy or strength-based elements. Bodyweight specialist is oftentimes a former gymnast or a smaller or lighter CrossFitter, or one that just happens to be really good at gymnastics elements. And they're rarely going to touch a barbell, so they're going to do a lot of the high-skill gymnastics in bodyweight based elements. And then there's a utility player, which will do some of each, and you'll use them in a lot of different areas of the grid match. But their skill is to be versatile, so you can plug them in a lot of areas.
What specific type of training do athletes undergo to prepare for the unique demands of Grid League?
Well, it varies a lot depending on the position and the player. I would say the most common form of training is CrossFit, but we do have pure weight Olympic lifters that play. We have strong men, strong women. We have gymnastics, backgrounds. So everybody's a little different, and there is training around specific movements within performed on the grid, but the base training really depends a lot on the player.
In CrossFit, there are specialty gyms where people train. Will Grid League ever establish dedicated gyms for training for the league?
I don't know that they'll be dedicated, but if you've heard of High Rocks, much like High Rocks, where they have kind of partner gyms that will feature elements that are in High Rocks and help people train for High Rocks, I think we'll probably have some sort of affiliation like that in the future with brick and mortar gyms. But we do have an online program called Grid Training Now, where you can get some very specific training for what Grid League asks for from an athlete. So things like high speed, high skill, body awareness, all those elements, depending on what role you think you'd be in. So I think in the future, there'll be a blend gyms, likely with like CrossFit based gyms as well. But I don't know, maybe there'll be, specific grid training gyms, but at least for the near future, probably not.
Many athletes in Grid League come from diverse fitness backgrounds like CrossFit and Hydrox. How do these backgrounds benefit them in the Grid League?
Yeah, so especially utility players, the MO of CrossFit is to be good at everything, be ready for the unknown and unknowable. So that kind of lends itself naturally to utility player role on the grid. And then strength specialist, I went through the roles before, but oftentimes a really strong CrossFitter can also be a good strength specialist. And then, if you're Olympic weightlifter, then you're obviously well primed for any barbell elements on the grid, most of them. I was gonna say on the bodyweight side, gymnastics backgrounds translate really well in the bodyweight side, and so do smaller or bodyweight oriented CrossFitters.
What strategies are you using to attract athletes from other fitness competitions to join the Grid League?
We actually don't have a ton of strategies. It's kind of been organic. We just put the content out there of our matches. And, a lot of times people that are into CrossFit or Olympic weightlifting or even strongman, strong women are used to performing by themselves. So when they see an opportunity to perform on a team and use their skills to complement their teammates, it sounds like a lot of fun to a lot of people, especially if you have team sports background like football or something like that. So, we do have a good amount of people that express interest in playing just organically from us posting our content.
Recently, you hosted your playoffs and championship match. Could you share that experience?
Yeah, it was great. We had a really tough year with the hurricane this year, so I was proud of how the community rallied and we pulled it together to have a great finish of the year with the championship event. And congratulations to the Atlanta Wild, who won the championship.
The Grid League isn't just for adults. You also have a kids league. Can you explain how that works and how it differs from the regular Grid League?
Yeah, really the only difference is lighter, more manageable movements, and everything else is structured the same. So how the races work, what the rules are, the movements are just a little easier. They're designed for anybody to be able to perform. So one of the big goals of Grid League is that there are versions for any skill level to play, and we have a few different versions there. And Kids Grid is an investment in the future because we've actually had some Kids Grid performers grow up to end up playing in the high level grid.
Back in October, the league was impacted by Hurricane Milton, which affected Florida. Some athletes weren't available to attend matches. What was that experience like for the league, and how did you handle it?
It was tough. We had a lot of momentum, a lot of planning, a lot of effort and a lot of vision on what that event was going to look like, and pretty much realized a couple of days before that everything was going to have to change. We had about 30% of our staff there. We had about half of our players. So how scoring happened for the year and how those events were executed had to change dramatically. And I was really proud of how we rallied as a community because it wasn't just the staff who did come through really well, but it was also the teams and the players. They really helped rally and understand, how different the situation was, and were open-minded to how to finish things the best way that we could. So we had to reconfigure the point system, but I do think it ended up working well, and the best teams made the playoffs, and ultimately, that's what really matters.
How can someone get involved in the Grid League as a player, team owner, or coach?
So if you're a player, there's a spot on the website that says Play Grid, and you'll click there and then sign up for the American Grid Trials. And that is an online combine that people can perform elements in and compete for prizes, but also those scores. And I think there's 12 different tests, and each test tests a dimension of Grid League. So some is, body weight bias, some is strength bias. Teams will recruit from people that submit scores. So that's going to be the best way to have the best chance to play. You can also reach out to teams directly. If you want to own a team, there is a spot on the website called Team Ownership, and you can apply there. And we are looking to bring on one more team for 2025. We have a few candidates, but we're always looking for more qualified candidates. And then staffing wise, there's always spots available in staff as well. So you can also reach out through the website for that.
Will United Grid League ever expand internationally, incorporating teams from like Canada?
Yeah, we'd love that. We do want to have as big a presence as we can, and we have gotten a good amount of international interest. So I do hope that we can do that someday for sure.
Lastly, where can people learn more about you and United Grid League? Website, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads?
Yes, we're on pretty much all of them, and the handle is United Grid League, and our website is unitedgridleague.com. So, and then my personal is Mather Wiz on Instagram, which is probably the best platform for me personally. But yep, we'd love to hear from anybody that is interested or has feedback for us.
Thank you, Mather, for joining me on this episode of Let's Chat With.
Of course, thanks for having me.